Ladies and gentlemen, hello there. Let's take just a moment to investigate the idea of a pedigree. So first off, quite a few different organisms can be represented with a pedigree. A pedigree is a visual representation of the inheritance of a trait through either a family or a population of organisms. Pedigrees can be used for human families, for swine, cattle, horses, uh, dogs, animals that might be in a show, anything that would be necessary to know the lineage or the inheritance pattern of a particular animal. That animal would probably have a pedigree. Even show rabbits would have a pedigree. First off, some pedigree basics. Males are squares, females are circles. Generations are indicated with Roman numerals, and in the case of the human pedigree, they're written on the left. Horizontal bars indicate either a marriage or, at the very least, a union between those two individuals that produced offspring. Vertical lines connect parents to their offspring. So in this case, these two individuals had 5 children: 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, all connected by that vertical line. Where possible, the oldest in a family is indicated on the left. So in generation 2, individual 1 is the oldest. In generation 2, individual 5 would be the youngest. And we do that wherever possible. Now, we also refer to these individuals sometimes by their numbers. This might be necessary in cases where I don't know the family's names. This was perhaps emailed to me, or this was sent to me in such a way that I have to investigate it. I'm a doctor, I'm a genetic counselor that's going to help this family out, but I don't know their names. Okay? I can still refer to them by their numbers. So in this case, generation 2, number 5, we would call that individual 2-5. Individual 2-5 is the youngest of this family. However, individual 2-6 is the oldest of the offspring from individuals 1-3, 1-4. So we'd like to say that wherever possible, the horizontal lines are going to go from left to right, oldest to youngest. But individual 2-6 might be older than individual 2-5. This is a separate family on the right. So when possible, we have the oldest on the left, youngest on the right. So who's the youngest on this entire pedigree? We can say that individual 3-2 is the youngest, third generation, and the farthest right. Those individuals that have the trait that's being followed, this might be some sort of disease, a disorder, some sort of challenge that they're afflicted with, those individuals are indicated with shaded symbols. Is this a dominant trait? Well, if this were a dominant trait, you might imagine that it would show up a little bit more often. However, if it were a dominant trait and this individual 1-1 were heterozygous, then we could see where 1-1 and 1-2 could possibly produce individuals that don't have the trait. Okay, so it's difficult to tell immediately. Looking at it very closely, we can see that individuals 2-5 and 2-6, neither of which have the trait, have passed it on to their daughter, individual 3-2. So individuals 2-5 and 2-6 give away the answer to this question. Individual 1-2 does not have the trait. However, we would say they are a carrier of that trait. Carriers are shown with a half-shaded symbol. Is individual 1-4 a carrier? It's difficult to tell. her offspring, neither of which have the trait, don't give us any clues. Individual 1-5 must be a carrier of the trait because he passes it on to his daughter. As well as individual 2-6. She must be a carrier in order to have passed that on to her daughter. To be a carrier means that individual is heterozygous for the trait. So because we say that a heterozygous individual is a carrier, we're saying that trait then doesn't show up. So individuals 2-5 and individual 2-6 are carriers, where individual 3-2 actually has the trait. In this instance, that gives away the answer to, is this dominant or recessive? This must be a recessive trait. In order for individuals 2-5 and 2-6 to have passed it on, but neither one of them have shown the trait, it has to be recessive. So what's the point of a pedigree? It's a quick visual of a family history that might be generated from a narrative given by several family members. And it's much quicker to look at this and see what's going on with this family than it is to sift through a paragraph of information that might have been written down by Great Aunt June. This is my family tree. The family pedigree, that's a lot of Mugens, people. I'm the youngest of 6. Which number am I? That's right, I'm number 212. Okay. You may call me Mr. 212. My sister had one boy. Which number is he? Individuals 1-1 and 1-2 are my parents. All of these individuals then that are directly connected are my siblings. This is my sister. She had one boy. He is individual 3-10. The oldest in generation 2 that we can be sure of, we might think that it was individual 2-1. However, that was my brother's second wife. She was actually quite a bit younger than he was. Individual 2-2 is my oldest brother, and he is the oldest one in generation 2. The oldest in generation 3, now this one's a toughie. Okay. As much as possible, we're going to say that left to right is oldest to youngest. For example, here's my sister's 3 kids. Her daughter is 3 or 4 years older than her son. Okay, from left to right, this is her oldest, her middle, and her youngest. However, for the entire 3rd generation, that is not the case. My brother's son, his firstborn, individual 3-5, is actually the oldest of all of my parents' grandchildren. A pedigree is an excellent, immediate visual representation of a family history. This can come in handy when diagnosing or counseling people with genetic diseases in humans, but it also comes in handy if we're dealing with a trait that might cause fatalities. Is this individual a carrier? We've circled it. We don't know. This individual was taken by this disorder. They're no longer with us. We can also use this to track animals. This concept, here's the parents on the right-hand side and the offspring here on the left. Okay, so instead of from top down, this goes from right to left. We see this is a dairy cow pedigree, and all of the different numbers that can track production of these cows are important if you're going to be purchasing or breeding particular dairy cattle. Swine pedigree, just the same. Here's the latest offspring on the far left. Here are its parents. Here are its grandparents. Do you call swine grandparents grandparents? I guess you do. This particular swine pedigree is right from the Stewart's farm, right here in Waverly, Iowa. – Lastly, the dog pedigree Lastly, the dog pedigree is another pedigree that's horizontally written. And this is an AKC pedigree that is from the American Kennel Club. All of the American Kennel Club pedigrees are now hyperlinked online. So if you have a membership to the AKC website, you can click on any one of these dogs and take you immediately to that dog being on the far left of the pedigree, and so you can see all of its heritage. Well, hey, thank you so much. I hope that this has been a good introduction into pedigrees and how they might be able to work, and I hope you have had an opportunity to learn a little bit about them. Certainly, if you have any questions, keep asking.